Hi colleagues, welcome back to Career and Corporate Hub. Ngadzina ndifikodani Hlatshwayo. I am a career strategist, so we are going to continue with interview tips. So if you have not checked out the previous video where we were talking about how you can introduce yourself, please do go check it out. That interview, or rather the video, will be very useful when you are preparing for an interview. So we are going to continue with this question. Please introduce yourself. So the trigger for continuing, there's somebody on TikTok who asked, what is the difference between please introduce yourself or tell us about yourself? So basically there is no difference. Like, introduce yourself and tell us about yourself is the same thing. The interviewers want to know who they are talking to. And remember, when you go for an interview, it's just the interviewers trying to know who you are. Why should they hire you? Like, who is this person behind the degree, behind the experience that you've written on your CV? So they want to know who is this person. And if you have not checked out the first video, please do check it out, because I do stress more on what could make you stand out. Because when you go for an interview, you're going there with other candidates who've got the same experience as you and who've got the same degree as you. So then how do you make yourself stand out from all those other candidates? So today, looking at how you can also introduce yourself, think about also when you're going for an interview, your research about the company. And have you ever thought of also looking at, like people that are going to interview you? For an example, check them out on Instagram. What are their hobbies? What does their Instagram page say? What does their LinkedIn page say? Those are some of the things that you can do to prepare yourself on how you're going to then structure your answers. So when you networking, these are some of the things that you can do to prepare yourself when you're going for a networking event, for an example. So now when you're going for an interview, consider interview as like also a way to network. So you want to leave an impression that would then make the interviewers feel like, I think this candidate should be hired. I think this candidate could be a great fit for the team. So I'm just going to make an example with myself. For example, if I'm going for an interview and I get an email, usually you'd get an email that has the names of the candidates that are going to interview you. So with those names, you can check, like, LinkedIn profile. Who is this person? How is their LinkedIn? What do they like? And for me, if it's somebody with family and I see on LinkedIn they also talk about family, then as part of my introduction, I'm going to also mention something about family. I'm very much family orientated, but you may find that in an interview, then I wouldn't really dwell much on it or even talk about it, because maybe I would feel like at that moment it is not important. And it doesn't mean that when you go research about those candidates, you basically not being authentic because you just want to talk about what they like. No, you can be authentic, but also just including those elements of what they like. So it's quite important that you really do a thorough research when you're going for an interview. For example, when you go for an interview, you will be researching about the company, so that if they ask you questions about the company values, then at least you are able to answer those questions. So for the same reasons why you research about the company, because sometimes you want to also include some of the elements of the company into your introduction or your answers, then it would be useful for you to also look at looking at who are these candidates that are going to, or rather who are these interviewers that are going to interview you. So I think this could really help you to really prepare and make yourself stand out, because talking about just your degree and your previous experience is not going to just it's not really going to help you. But from the first video I did mention that tell us about yourself or introduce yourself can make or break, because that's when you warm up the room. But then if you're not bringing an element that can make the interviewers connect with you, then they're not going to be lenient. Like, they're just going to be asking you questions, nje, like, and you want them to be lenient. For an example, if you want them to repeat the questions, they could repeat, and sometimes they could even elaborate, or you could also feel free to ask them to elaborate as well, and they wouldn't see anything wrong with that. But if the room is not warm, you may find that when you ask them, could you please elaborate the question, they feel like, are you like really prepared for this interview? So you don't want people to be asking such questions. That's why really preparing for that interview is very important, and just looking at who are these people that are going to interview me. And something that I also mentioned from the previous video about like how you can prepare yourself for this question of introduce yourself, or tell us about yourself, is more on, remember that the guys that are interviewing you, they are just trying to get to know you. They could also be nervous. So now the way, and the reason why they could be nervous, they don't want to mess up the questions. I think I've said this so many times. Even when I'm talking to my clients, I'm like, don't worry. Like, when you are so nervous, sometimes also the people that are interviewing you, they are also nervous because they don't want to mess up. They feel like if they mess up, then how are you going to look at them as well? So that's why when you're going into that interview, go there with a positive mindset that it's also a learning journey. If it doesn't work out, then at least you have tried. Look at the lessons that you've learned and move on. And while we're talking about lessons, another thing that I always advise my clients is when you finish an interview, always write down the questions that were asked in the interview and reflect on how you've performed. And if it could be stressful, because I'm just thinking, like, after an exam, you don't want to go back and think of which questions you answered correctly, but these are some of the things that could help you improve, more especially if then you don't get a job and you're still job hunting. Then to improve from your previous interview, then it's quite important that you reflect. That's why with a lot of my clients, the question in the beginning is always, how was your previous interview? Are there any questions that you want us to focus on specifically before, I give my advice? Because I also don't want to just go and say, oh, you must do this, you must do that, you must do this, whereas this candidate has gotten everything right. So it's quite important that, we also have that discussion just to reflect on where do you think you went wrong with the previous interview? Where do you think you can improve going forward? So I really like to take that approach all the time. And now just looking at how you can introduce yourself. So look for that one thing that would make you stand out. And it's the same as when you're going to a networking event. Like, what is it that you want the interviewers, or rather not the interviewers, like the people you're meeting, the people you want to have within your network? What do you want them to know about you that would leave a good impression? That, for an example, if you're running a business, then they need your service, they're able to just call you. So same as when you go for an interview, what impression do you want to leave, that when the interviewers, maybe even if you don't make it for that interview, and there's other opportunities that they can just think of calling you because of how you've connected in the interview. And to tell you the truth, when we talk about first impression counts, it really counts. And a lot of people may say that no, we don't care about the first impression, we don't care about how you introduce yourself. It matters because that's how you're going to warm the room. And going to the next questions, like the actual interview questions on, like, can you work under pressure, are you a good team player, then all those questions, you will be able to answer them with technical examples, which is what we're going to discuss in the next video, how you can then answer those questions as well to make your answer stand out. Because it's all about how you are different from other candidates. Don't wait for this question to come as to why do you think we should hire you. It should already be something that the interviewers speak from how you present yourself. Presentation is very important. So I think with just this, I'm gonna leave this video here today. So thank you so much for joining in. If you would like me to maybe like there's something else that you think we could add into this video, please do comment or just leave the question at the bottom. If you have any other questions, interview questions that you would like me to focus on, please do let me know. I will definitely do a video on those questions. So thank you so much for subscribing. If you are for subscribing, if you are new here, please do make sure that you subscribe and also share this video. I'm sure it is going to be useful for other candidates that will be going for an interview soon or who are going for an interview. So thank you so much for joining. Be kind and gentle. Bye bye.